Psychoanalysis every day. Psychoanalysis every day. Cheating in relationships. Namaste. Cheating in relationship is an increasingly common occurrence. Clients come to us because their partners are cheating or they are cheating. Cheating in relationships is a universal human phenomena, and we go deeper into it with guide Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste.
Namaste.
Has cheating been always so rampant, or is it specific to our times?
We start with the infinity of desire, which is at the root of human nature. That the desire for anything is infinite, it is based upon variety, and it is based upon recurrence. Gautam Buddha used to call it Trishna, the thirst which will never quench. So the same thing happens in all areas of life, be it money, power, or relationships. That the desire has in its own nature infinity built into it. And this infinity of desire, the need of desire for variety and the nature of desire for reoccurring, this actually has been leading to cheating all over the historical periods. In some periods it has been more, in some periods it has been less. And we can see the waves in history, that you had periods which were very conservative. Take for example the Victorian period, the Christian period, extremely conservative with respect to relationships, men and women, and sexuality. Take the Roman period, a period full of hedonism and promiscuity. Take the French period of Enlightenment, and again we see promiscuity. And in that historical periods, when we see the present period is a promiscuous period. It is not the conservative period. And these cycles in history keep going on. The difference is, before we never had this kind of security, this kind of prosperity, this kind of individualism, this kind of state support for liberty, and this kind of anonymity. So when you combine all of this, prosperity, individualism, state support, urbanization, anonymity, and hedonism, and lack of any moral belief, you have a recipe for almost a pandemic of cheating.
Yeah.
It's even more than an epidemic, it's almost like a pandemic of cheating. And this has spread across the world, except for a few countries which are extremely controlling, say for example Saudi Arabia or Iran. But in all liberal countries where urbanization has happened, what we used to say before, that the desire is always for infinity, that every man wants every woman in the world and every woman wants every man in the world at the level of desire. But on top of desire sit morality and reality. And the desire was passing through these filters and coming up. These two filters have gone weak, in some cases extremely porous, in some cases almost absent. And that has created this situation that we have a rampant cheating spree. That is one part of it. The second part of it is, it's so universal today that in many countries you hear this saying, that everyone cheats. You just have to get along with it in life. It's a part of life. Okay, you also cheat and the other person also cheats, and it's just a part of life. You just have to get along with it. So it has become so normalized because of its sheer pervasiveness and our helplessness at finding any solution. That it is so pervasive and we have no solution, that we have no choice left but to accept and roll on with life. So cheating today is one of those items in relationships. People say you have to forgive something in everyone, that no one is perfect. You have to forgive something in everyone. Unfortunately, that something has started including cheating. Previously, that something used to be somebody's nature, somebody's way of talking, somebody's behavior, somebody's social status, somebody's money-making capability, and so on. Cheating has got added to that forgive something, that something has started including cheating. So it's very, very epidemic now. In fact, Jung used to say, and this is almost a century back, Carl Jung used to say that the secret of a successful marriage is the license to be unfaithful.
Okay.
Because he himself was unfaithful and he had many lovers, many of whom were actually his patients.
Okay.
So he himself was very promiscuous. And what has happened now is that one important element in many societies is that in their evolution as a society, many societies are in the stage that is between a marriage society and a no marriage society. It's in between. It's a transitional period. That maybe 50, 75 years from now, those societies won't have most people in the marriage system. People outside the marriage system will be in a majority. And people within the marriage system will be in a minority. But today, it's in transition. That people are not satisfied that this is a good system. At the same time, they don't have the willingness or allowing of circumstances to move out of the system, and they are caught in the system. And because it's a transitional period, we see all these paradoxes, the hypocrisies, and so on, because we are neither here nor there. So we cannot follow all the do's and don'ts of marriage. We cannot live outside of the marriage system as a free individual. We are inside the marriage system, unable to follow its do's and don'ts.
Yes.
So this is a very unique kind of historical situation where in most countries, most societies across the world, we have cheating as a near universal phenomena too. And that is what calls for a deeper understanding and an attempt to get out of it, because nobody believes it is something benign. Even the person who cheats, if you ask him, even he won't say it's the right thing to do. So it's that kind of a paradoxical situation that nobody believes it is right and everyone does it. So this is a very peculiar situation in which we as a society and many societies across the world find themselves in with respect to this problem.
Yeah. So is cheating always the same event, or are there different types of cheating?
Very different types. And this is something not understood by people. They club everything into one, and they understand every cheating as an act which is explained by only one and one thing, that is betrayal. That cheating is nothing but betrayal. That you betrayed my trust and you did something immoral which you ought not to do. So this actually is a oversimplification. The point is not that there is no betrayal. Of course there is. But the point is that apart from betrayal, there are many other things. Some of which are along with betrayal and some of which are the causes of that betrayal. So it's slightly more complicated situation that cheating is not one thing. And cheating does not go alone. It has some friends who always move along with it. And there are some causes behind it. And unless we understand this whole ecosystem of cheating, we can't really get a grip of either why it happens or what to do about it. Or not even a satisfactory answer if nothing can be done about it. So this is where we are. So let us go into the types of cheating. The most common cheating that happens, and in frequency it is the highest. Like if you look at in 1 year, how many times are you going to cheat? If you have that kind of a cheating Olympics. So in that cheating Olympics, the highest score people score is usually in the teenagers and early 20s. 15 to 25 is where the frequency is the highest. And that has to do just with the hormones and the drive, the infinity of desire. And it has to do with immaturity of finding the wrong person, fighting over small things, uh, betraying one another without thinking one is going to get caught, and so on and so forth. It's a very different kind of a school campus, college campus kind of cheating. And that is, I think, the most voracious form of cheating that we see in terms of frequency. Later on, when you have cheating, it's very less in terms of number. That nobody is going to cheat 5 times a year. It's going to be cheating with one person. He may meet the person 5 times a year, but the person is 1 or 2. You won't have 5 people in 1 year. So what we see is number of people, the getting into relationship, breaking out of relationship, that school campus, college campus kind of cheating is, which is the one of the most voracious form of cheating in frequency terms. But it is not as serious because nobody is so serious at that age. And this whole idea of being stuck because of the social pressure, because of children, because of financial issues, all those things are alien to that age group. So it is just like it's my life kind of. You put on that song, it's my life, and you can dance to it as much as you want. It's a very free, carefree kind of part of life. So this is one cheating which happens pre-25. At the most, you can stretch it to 28. So this is one kind of cheating. I would not call it innocent, but I would call it very trivial. That although morally not correct, it's very trivial. It's more driven by desire and ignorance and carelessness than anything else. Second form of cheating that happens is in early 30s. And that happens within usually the marriage system. And that's a very different kind of cheating. Now, this is a cheating which happens after the partner has tried to adjust for 5 to 7 years. And the adjustment has not worked. So let us say somebody got married at 25, 28, and he tried his best till 32, 35. And at some point, he was just fed up, he gave up, and he said, I am done, I can't do anything more on my part. This is not working out, I can't get out, but I can't live like this. Because the relationship that I have is either a bitter relationship, unsatisfying relationship, or almost an absent relationship or a fighting relationship. And I don't want anything of that sort. I want good relationship. If I can't get it inside the house, I'll find it outside the house. I can't live like this, that I have a bitter relationship and I should not look out. That is not acceptable to me. So this is like after a lot of trying, when one says, I am done with it and I can't live all my life like this, it's spoiling my life. I have a right to happiness and I will look out. So the second type of cheating, which happens in early 30s, which is actually towards the end of one trying to make something work and not being able to. So finally resigning and looking outside. Second kind of cheating. Third kind of cheating is very different. It's midlife cheating. Now that happens usually between 42 to 47. That is the prime age. And this is something very interesting. This cheating is very different from the other two cheatings. And this is often surprising to many because it often looks as though one had a fairly successful marriage and children are growing up. They are just getting out of the college and about to get married in a couple of years. And at this critical juncture, why would somebody go in an extramarital affair? Age-wise also, one is not in the best of youthful age for either romance or sex. The body is getting weak. One has passed through the menopause, the body is getting weak, sicknesses have started coming up, you are no longer as capable of enjoying romance or sex or going together out or eating out, nothing of that, everything is restricted. So the question then comes, why would somebody do it? And it's very interesting to note that you start at 20 to 25 with all the dreams. You compromise bit by bit every day. And at 42, 43, after menopause, when the midlife crisis starts, you come to realize that many of the desires you had can never be fulfilled.
Yeah.
That you had 10 desires when you were 25, you could satisfy 4 of them. 3 of them you can still satisfy in the remaining part of your life, but 3 of them just can't be satisfied and you have to let go. Now that is a very difficult mourning process. Not everybody can do that mourning. So what happens when you cannot mourn an unfulfilled desire? It's very difficult to live with an unfulfilled desire, knowing it's a very strong desire I cannot give up, and there is no way I can satisfy, and I can't even mourn about it and let go. Now, these are the desires that cannot be mourned, that you cannot let go, are very strong, and then at 40 to 45, it is now or never. You realize that this is the last chance. Like if I had a desire to see America, this would be the last chance. Either I go in the next 2-3 years or it's going to be never.
Mhm.
And that is where different desires, they come up in the midlife crisis. Like if you wanted to be the author, but you were hesitating for a long time, you suddenly get the urge and the courage to become an author and write a book. So midlife crisis, just as it can create depression and anxiety and so on, it can also create opportunities and productivity. So many people who got married did not find very compatible people, but because of what their parents told them and the way they were, they adjusted to it. And their choice was X, they got Y, and they adjusted to Y. But the desire for X kind of person remained. And at midlife, you come to the point of now or never. And that is where they start looking out for X, the type that they already had in mind. At
Right.
times, it can also really be related to revenge. That in the process of adjusting, many times they would have swallowed something which was not very sweet, it was very bitter. And the words were so bitter that they cannot be forgotten. And that swallowing remains. And all of that, when it becomes too much, some people want to finally take revenge. That they always wanted to take revenge, they were postponing it, and the revenge also in midlife becomes now or never. So this midlife crisis of now or never, that precipitates many things. And some of the cheating happens there, either to fulfill a long-held desire, which you are keeping in check because of various reasons, or you wanted revenge, which you have postponed and cannot be postponed any longer. So this is the midlife kind of thing. And then there is this last cheating, which is even more embarrassing, which is cheating post-children's marriage. It's
Okay.
almost in the old age, like it's like a senior citizens gymnastics.
Yeah.
A very embarrassing
Yes.
of cheating, but it happens. And this has
Okay.
happened many celebrities that
Okay.
they were waiting for a long time to divorce. They were just waiting so the children get married.
Mhm.
And the moment the children got married, there was nothing to keep the two together. And both were financially independent. So there was nothing to look on that aspect. So that cheating also can happen. And in all these points of cheating, you can either have only cheating, or you can have cheating leading to divorce or straight away divorce. Because divorce is a very near companion of cheating. So these are the different types of cheating that we see as a counselor very rampant in society, and these are very different types of cheatings. The reason for each of them is very different. As you move from the teenage to more and more senior age, the romantic and sexual component goes down.
Mhm.
Other components as motivators, they come up. So these are very different types of cheatings. They have very different causes. They have very different consequences. And it's very different in counseling to really handle each of them.
Yeah.
Many of them are such where either we are not able to stop cheating because despite our best efforts, the causes are too strong, or in many cases, both of them reconcile. Okay, you also cheat and I also cheat, but let us stay together.
Okay.
So that then is the, I call it a matrimony of cheating. So that also is one thing where there is a phrase for it, this particular category of relationships. It is called separated but not divorced. That the two live together either because of children or property or social pressure, but so incompatible that both of them decide to have individual lives.
Yeah.
So it is like a mutually agreed cheating, a very different form of cheating. Okay, you also cheat, I also cheat. And when it's mutually agreed, there is a definitional problem. Should we call it cheating or should we call it choice?
Yes.
Very different situation. So these are the different types of.
So does it say psychoanalysis can help avoid cheating in midlife crisis period?
Yeah, because if we look at the role of psychoanalysis in these various forms of cheating, the first form of the school, college campus type, there isn't much we can do. But later on, the 30s cheating, the midlife cheating, the post children's marriage cheating, there we have a very strong role to play. The difference is this, that psychoanalysis as a discipline is not necessarily collectivistic. It's more individualist. Meaning, if it comes to a collision between rights of the collective and the rights of the individual, we go with the rights of the individual. Because as a discipline, it's a individualism driven, hedonism driven discipline. So psychoanalysis can help people know deeper causes which are at work in them, help them to think out profoundly what is happening, help them to make a very enlightened and a profound choice, but not necessarily avoid either cheating or divorce. Often, psychoanalysis actually can facilitate divorce.
Okay.
Because it's a very individualistic thing.
Yes.
So, if you are into CBT or if you are into some form of counseling which is more morality driven, more social conformity driven, then that form of counseling or therapy might try at reconciling. Because the idea there is that cheating and divorce are essentially bad and marriage system is essentially good. It has to be preserved at all costs. That is the underlying premise. That premise is not there in psychoanalysis. So in psychoanalysis, the unit is not the family, it is the individual. And because the unit of consideration is different, the right of individual usually we value more than the right of the collective of whom he is a part. So Eastern systems may try to actually fit the person into the family system, ask him to compromise and let go and so on. Psychoanalysis, if somebody is, let us say, cheating out of some sociopathic, psychopathic kind of behavior, out of some narcissistic behavior, that group will be helped. Because
Okay.
the moment you start looking at addressing the narcissism, addressing the mania of the bipolar, addressing the perversion, the amount of cheating can go low, not because you are asking him to not do it because it's a sin, but because you are restoring the balance of the superego versus the id. So
Yes.
your movement towards health in the therapy room itself may reduce cheating. That is one possibility. But the second possibility is, if there is a fundamental incompatibility, then psychoanalysis actually will multiply that incompatibility and make it so vivid that even those who are not thinking of divorce will start thinking about divorce.
All right.
It can cut both ways.
Okay.
Because one of the things is often psychoanalytic thinkers say that we are not religious preachers. Our job is not to uphold conventional morality and conventional order. Our job is self-knowing and self-transformation based upon what is rational and what the individual thinks is good for him.
Okay.
So the role of a therapist or a counselor is not the same as that of a religious preacher. And that in some way brings out how psychoanalysis can actually work both ways when it comes to the cheating part. Either it can reduce if it is because of some pathology, or if it's because of incompatibility or personal choice or personal nature, it may actually multiply it and make the transition from cheating to divorce, which from a conventional point of view would be a more difficult thing to handle. People will
Yes.
say the cheating was better than this.
Right. Coming to causes, why cheating has increased so much?
There are many reasons why it has increased so much. If you make a list of reasons, first is the sheer anonymity. Because most people, if we see, their morality is driven by shame, not guilt. They don't do many things, not because they believe it is wrong. They are worried about being caught by others. So it's a shame-driven morality rather than a guilt-driven morality.
Mhm.
Now, when you give anonymity to this large group of people, they go free and they go berserk. And this is one element that in the last 200 years, what we call the modern era, there has been urbanization of the whole world. And urbanization means anonymity. And anonymity is a great facilitator of cheating. That if you are living in something like a Bombay or a Delhi, any metro, and you go 25 kilometers out of your home and you have an affair somewhere, it's very difficult to catch. But think of a village situation. In a small village, everyone knows everyone.
Mm.
If you enter somebody's house, 3 people are seeing you're entering that house. So it's very difficult to get away in that situation. Let me give 2 examples. In my father's village, I have seen these 2 examples, very funny and very embarrassing, but very potent. I, in my childhood, used to go in vacations to my father's village. We used to go in the May vacations to my father's village and my mother's village. And in my father's village, I used to hear elders talking between each other, and I was very small at that time. And this remark one person made, he said about a woman X, he said, look at her 4 children. All of them have different faces. And you can actually connect the faces to 4 different people in the village.
Okay.
That's so embarrassing.
Yes.
Nothing is hidden because everyone knows everyone.
Yes. Nothing is hidden.
So
Right.
it is a very difficult thing to practice this kind of thing. And in that situation, one was this part. Second part was of how people dealt with it. And I saw 2 different kinds of villages. One where it was very strict, and cheating would lead almost to a murder kind of situation, either of the woman or of the man or both. And the second I saw very surprisingly was that I know of a woman who suffered from histrionicity. She would run away with her lovers and then come back after 4 or 5 days. The husband would beat her up and then after some time reconcile with it. And this happened almost 4 to 5 times.
Oh, 4 to 5 times.
Yeah, it was almost like an annual festival. That
Yeah.
the woman would run away with some man, come back, and so on and so forth. And this was almost the husband treating the wife almost like a father treating a daughter who has
Yes.
gone out of the way, kind of.
Yes.
So this different kinds of treatment, they also were one very important factor. So in city, the moment you have the safety and the anonymity and the means of travel and communication and a fall of morality, that we no longer see this as a sin, and that creates trouble, that we don't have actually guilt about it, we have only shame. So this is another aspect of it, that in their hearts, people have stopped believing this is a real sin. It's almost become like a quarter
Yeah.
sin or a half sin. So this is another aspect, that the religious education which made it a sin has tapered away. Anonymity has gone up, money with people has gone up, the freedom from the community has come about, the uniqueness of the individual is celebrated, hedonism is celebrated, that the goal of life is to maximize pleasure. Indirectly, that is the philosophy on which everything is based. It's no longer the pursuit of enlightenment or pursuit of expanding one's empire. At an individual level, it's more, the value system is of maximizing the pleasure. So this is one aspect of it, and this has increased after the advent of modernity, the industrial civilization, urbanization, anonymity, because hedonism, individualism, materialism, they are inseparable parts of modernity for the last 250 years. So all of this put together, larger factors of history, of modernity, collapse of social morality, collapse of the spiritual and religious teaching, the uprise of urbanity and anonymity, the whole corporate communication trying to flare up desires, especially of the romantic and the sexual type, that you are bombarded by these messages 24 hours a day, and it constantly stimulates the romantic and the sexual part of you. All this put together is creating this difficulty, and I always bring this idea of training, that if you have to go into any system, you have to be trained for that system.
Yes.
You can't train a person for fighter plane and then send him to man a submarine. If you do that, he will drive the submarine also like a fighter plane. And this is what is happening. One factor, that we train somebody till the age of 25 for individualism and then ask him to follow the do's and don'ts of marriage from 25. Now, his 25 years of training is completely at odds with the self-control which is required for the next 25 years.
Yes.
And that also is a training deficit, that we are not training people for the marriage system, we are training them virtually for cheating. Without using the word cheating, we say freedom, we say hedonism, but
Yeah.
what comes to that? That
Right.
training people, and the worst culprit here, I think, is corporate communication and movies. That corporate communication in the form of advertising and the movies and the TV serials, they, I think, are the worst culprits. They put inside the mind far more than what goes inside by talking to each other or reading something. If you take any young mind today, much of it is bombarded by these things. They are not reading much, they are not talking much. So if you
Yes.
look to what input is going into the mind, essentially it is corporate communication of some sort, advertising, movies, or television serials. And this is where the training part comes. So just as we saw, there is a historical component of modernity, there is a historical component of urbanization. there is a historical component of the state accepting that hedonism is the right premise for human life. And then the social collapse and the educational collapse. And one component there is this of corporate communication. All this put together actually are fueling this whole phenomena of cheating. And one important component, lastly, is the compatibility in marriages. That when marriages are made, if you look at only wealth or if you look at social prestige, then the individual to individual compatibility is not there. And that incompatibility somewhere down the line will lead to interest in somebody else. Because what will happen is, okay, you want everything. You want a compatible person, you also want wealth, and you also want prestige. Now, if all of that is not in one person, and mostly it is not, so you have to trade off something. And most people trade off compatibility. So they settle for wealth and prestige. And they put aside compatibility. And once they have wealth and prestige, after some years, they are used to it. So that is no longer happiness giving. So that remaining unfulfilled desire of compatibility again comes, which they wanted at one point in time. So that makes the person search for something they always wanted, always liked. So they are essentially satisfying that desire in a sequential way. Because it cannot be satisfied all at once. You prioritize. You first look at wealth and social prestige, and then you look at compatibility. And on top of it, you have this whole idea of evolution. That both people evolve, and that can also lead to differences. That human beings are not static. And when differences are too much, then of course you can go different ways. So all this put together, they are the causes for this complex phenomenon. It's not as easy as with you. Because when somebody says that my partner is cheating, that person does not think about modernity and history and urbanization and so on. This outburst is completely different.
Yes.
But it's a very
and you mentioned Yes?
It's a very complex phenomenon.
Yeah. So you mentioned criteria of compatibility. Can we elaborate on it?
Yeah. We have only 1 minute to go. Let us take a break and take it in the second.
Okay.